Burn City Suns talk. Brennan and Damian. Like 18 on the run, the way you containing them. All the latest from coming to the Suns. Inside information and getting it done. For Phoenix Sports, they #1. Kinda like Booker, yeah, they on the rise. Come and see, it's all things Phoenix. Burn City Suns talk, we going live.
Welcome to episode 3 of Burn City Suns Talk. My name is Brendan Mao. This is Damian Adams, and we are very excited to bring you another episode of the best Suns podcast here in the Valley.
Okay, say it with your chest.
Where we break down inside content that we see from the Suns every day, covering the team. So we're very excited to have you here. And Damian, what will we be talking about today?
So today is a very special episode because the start of the NBA season is next week. So we got to get into our world predictions for Rookie of the Year, Sixth Man, Defensive Player, Coach of the Year, Most Improved, and of course, MVP. We're going to talk about our most surprising teams that we expect to make the playoffs who missed the playoffs last year. Also disappointing teams who made the playoffs last year who may miss this year. And of course, our NBA Finals predictions. But before we get into all that, we got to talk about the Phoenix Suns and what they did in these last 2 preseason games against the Portland Trail Blazers.
Yeah, I mean, both games, we said it in our recap videos, they dominated the Blazers. And I think the biggest part of those 2 games was how well the team has meshed together. I mean, you already see Bradley Beal adding him to the equation, Grayson Allen adding him to the equation, Yusuf Nurkic adding him to the team. I mean, everyone that they're adding fits in so seamlessly, which is kind of crazy because they have 13 new guys and a new coach, and it all seems to be coming together. I mean, granted, it's only preseason, but 76 points in each of the last 2 games in the first half, that's just a wild stat. No matter who the Blazers are playing, I mean, you can just see the Suns already coming together so well. And just hearing the players talk, I mean, they're all very excited, and they all are kind of buying in with this one common goal of winning a championship.
Yeah, so when we talk about those last 2 games, they were against the Portland Trail Blazers. And in those games, they defeated the Portland Trail Blazers 122-111 and 117-106, respectively. And you talked about the team fitting in. I think it's easy to fit in when you have 2 major pieces that make everything else easier around you. Kevin Durant and Devin Booker definitely do that. It's like a great steak. There's no side you could put around a great steak that's going to mess up the steak. Right? If you have a really good cooked steak, not well done. If you're doing it well done, you're doing it wrong. If it's nice, it's medium, and you have, your mashed potatoes and stuff on the side, those sides are going to look good next to that steak. And that's what they have with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. And how good was Devin Booker last night?
He was remarkable. I mean, he started off 4-4 from deep. He finished the first quarter with 17 points. And we talked about it yesterday. We saw a new element of his game that was working really well, the pull-up 3, which has kind of been a struggle for him in the past. So I think that was big to get his confidence going with that shot. And it was a big talk in the post-game pressers about how Devin's added that to his arsenal, and we saw it firsthand last night.
Yeah, man, this is a scary look for all the other teams in the NBA when you think about Devin Booker being this efficient, and it's continuing from last season in the playoffs. Last season in the playoffs, in those 11 games, he shot over 50% from 3 and almost 58% from the field. And now in the preseason, he's been doing that same type of production. So it's looking like it's going to be very scary and very hard for other teams to stop this team. And last night, Devin Booker goes off in the first quarter. He comes out the game. Second quarter, Kevin Durant goes off.
Yeah, and we talked to Grayson Allen today about how he talked a lot about how this offense, it's like you have more freedom to do as you wish as a role player because of the offensive, like, I don't know how you would say it, the formation that they're in, like, just like he's compared it to his time in Milwaukee. He was like a spot-up 3-point shooter in the corner. But in this offense, he can drive more, which we've seen a lot of him and Josh Okogie, just to name a couple players, are guys that are finding their shot close to the basket who you would think would just be settling for threes, but that's not the case. And I think that's a kind of a dimension of the game that I didn't really expect to see, especially this early in the year. I thought, like we saw last year, like these role players are just going to stand on the outside, and when they have a three-pointer, they'll take it. But that's not at all what we're seeing so far.
No, for sure. And I think the difference with Grayson Allen and the Suns offense compared to the Bucks offense, the Bucks main player is not a shooter. Giannis Antetokounmpo, we know, struggles from the outside, so teams are going to pack the paint to stop him from getting in there. That's also going to make it hard for players like Grayson Allen to drive. This team, you got Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal. He's going to be out there with Eric Gordon that time. So if you have those guys out there who all spread the floor, of course, Grayson Allen is now going to have those lanes to drive and do things that, remind you of what he did when he was in high school and college, when he was driving to the goal, dunking on people. He's going to have those opportunities this year.
For sure. And another thing that Kevin Durant specifically talked about when I asked him about their offensive success, he said that their defense is really the catalyst for the offense, which he said is kind of cliche, but I mean, you're seeing it from the top. I mean, Devin Booker and Bradley Beal both had 2 steals last night. So how do you stop the Suns when they're being that good defensively and it's just playing into easy fast break opportunities off steals, or they're just getting hot on defense and it's playing right into the offense?
Yeah, no, if they're playing defense at that level where they're getting steals, getting fast breaks, and it's already hard to stop them in the half court, imagine what they're doing getting fast break opportunities. It's going to be very, very hard for other teams to stop them if they're playing defense in that way. And we've seen that in these last 2 games where they're able to take off in the second quarter. The first game against the Blazers, they went on a 21-2 run to end the second quarter. At one point, it was tied 53-53 with about 6 minutes left in the quarter. By the end of the quarter, it was 76-55. To go on an explosive run like that is just absolutely crazy and shows you the talent that the Suns have. Now, one thing that the Suns do not have is a rookie. Right? And we're going to get into our predictions for the awards now. We have to start with the Rookie of the Year. Who do you have for Rookie of the Year?
Yeah, I mean, we all know who the favorite is, and I'm going to choose him for this award. I'm going to stick with Victor Wembanyama here. Right now, he's the favorite over Chet Holmgren, Scoot Henderson, who I've been really impressed by Scoot just watching him the last 2 games against the Suns. I think he'll have a good shot at this award too, just because of the way the Blazers are structured. Brandon Miller, Amen Thompson, and Cam Whitmore are the other players up there. But I think Victor, just what we've seen from him this preseason is ridiculous. Like, he's already doing it, what people said he could do at a very high level. So I don't know if he's going to be LeBron good when it comes to those expectations and exceeding all these really high expectations. But so far, I mean, he's shown that he's a freak of nature, and it fits him well on the court. So
yeah, for sure. Victor looks like he's going to just be everything that is advertised, right? 7'4" with an incredible wingspan. If you look at the video where he dunks on Thomas Bryant that's gone all over social media, so Thomas Bryant's a 6'11". Like, that's a very tall individual that Victor Wembanyama made look like a baby when he dunked on him. If you haven't seen it, go look it up. It's incredible to see Thomas Bryant's reaction, like, yo, this dude just dunked on me like Michael Jordan in Space Jam. And it's incredible to see what he does. But I do have to disagree with you. I think that Chet Holmgren is going to have an advantage going into his rookie year because he was with the Thunder last year. He got hurt in the offseason, couldn't play. And we've seen players before where they got hurt in their first season, and then technically their second year was their rookie year, and they were able to take advantage of the lessons they learned being around the NBA. We saw it with Ben Simmons. We saw it with Blake Griffin. So when you have that time around the NBA, you're able to train, and you're able to just be around the game and see the speed of the game up close in practice with those guys. I think it makes a big difference. And also, the Oklahoma City Thunder should be much better than the Spurs. And I think if Holmgren and Wembanyama have like the same stats, the tiebreaker could be the fact that he's affecting winning. So I think that would be something that could go into what the voters are thinking about as far as, oh, this guy's on a playoff team and he's getting 20 points a game versus Wembanyama, who's going to be on a team that might be in the lottery and he might be getting those same stats.
Yeah, I'd have to disagree. I mean, I just think Victor is the number 1 option, and Chet's not going to be the number 1 option in Oklahoma City. They still have SGA, so I think that advantage is just for Rookie of the Year specifically. Like you saw Paolo Banchero win it. I mean, it was just because he's the number 1 option, and he's going to have the best stats. It doesn't matter how good the team is for this award, but I just think Victor being the number 1 option and all the praise he's already getting, I just think that's going to propel him to eventually win that award.
Okay, so let us know. Do you agree with Brennan on Victor Wembanyama, or do you agree with me with Chet Holmgren for Rookie of the Year? So now let's get into Sixth Man of the Year. All right, so this award was won by Malcolm Brogdon last year when he was with the Boston Celtics. He's now on the Portland Trail Blazers. And we have a lot of candidates for this award. Who are some of the candidates?
Yeah, so the number 1 option on sportsbooks right now is Emmanuel Quickley. Then you have Norman Powell with the Clippers, Malik Monk, and then Malcolm Brogdon again could he win it with the Blazers? And Chris Paul former Sun, now on the Warriors, and then Buddy Hield on the Pacers, which I don't know if he's going to stay on the Pacers, but.
Yeah. No, those are all good choices right there. And if you're looking for a Sun to bet on, there are 2 Suns that are on FanDuel. If you use that app, Eric Gordon is at plus 3,700 and Grayson Allen is at plus 7,500 for our Suns bettors out there. So who do you have winning Sixth Man of the Year?
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to go with the Bucks here once again. I think Emmanuel quickly. I just love his game and how he's grown year to year. His development. I mean, he's another Kentucky guard, so those guys just seem to progress so quickly. And then when they finally find their groove, I think just his defense specifically, I think is going to help the Knicks. But yeah, I mean, he's just a good all-around player already, and he could be a starter on most teams. And it just sucks that they have Brunson, but he's right off the bench, and he's more than capable, I think, of being a starter on most NBA teams.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on how skilled Quickly is and how good he is and how productive he will be off the bench. Now, when you look at this award, the last 4 winners have been on teams that were either the 1 or 2 seed in their conference. I don't see the Knicks doing that, right? So because of that, I don't have Quickly winning the award. I'm actually going to go with a Sun for this one because I do think the Suns will be a top 2 seed in the Western Conference. So give me Eric Gordon to win Sixth Man of the Year this year. Now, the only thing that scares me is that Grayson Allen and him are coming off the bench. So they might kind of cut each other off as far as votes that they can get because they'll both be very productive this year. But Eric Gordon has so much experience coming off the bench, being productive. He's a former Sixth Man of the Year, won it for Houston in the 2016-17 season. So he's somebody who definitely knows how to win the award because he's been productive off the bench, and he has that mentality of somebody who's coming off the bench and knows how to be aggressive right away. So again, we disagree. Fans, let us know. Do you agree with me on Eric Gordon? And don't just be a homer on this one. Like, if you really think it's going to be Emmanuel Quickly, let Brennan know. If you think it's going to be Eric Gordon, let me know, all right? So now let's go to the next award, which is Most Improved. And there's a former Sun that's the favorite for this one, right?
Yeah, Mikal Bridges is the favorite here with the Nets now. And then you have Tyrese Maxey, who could be stepping into a larger role depending on if James Harden plays with them or not. Yeah. He's the second. And then you have Jordan Poole at number 3, now with the Wizards. And then Cade Cunningham, who was hurt last year, and now is coming back for former Suns coach Monty Williams and the Pistons. Then you have Anthony Simons on the Blazers, as well as Austin Reeves on the Lakers.
And for our Suns fans out there, I am sorry. There are no Suns on the ballot right now, on the betting ballot for Most Improved. So who do you have winning the Most Improved award?
Yeah, I'd like Jordan Poole in this one just because him going over to a new system in Washington where he's going to be the number 1 option, I think. I mean, there's been discussions of if he should have won it in the past, like just because when he was kind of in and out of the G League and then just vastly improving, I think just him having the freedom that he's going to have offensively this year is going to do wonders for his game, and I think that ultimately is going to make him win this award.
So we have our first one that we agree on. I'm going with Jordan Poole as well. The reason I like Jordan Poole is the story, right? You got to remember last year, off-season, he gets punched in the face. It gets broadcasted all over America. He gets embarrassed, and then he doesn't have the normal season that he would have, right? He's below his efficiency standards. In the playoffs, wasn't really that good. And then he gets traded for Chris Paul, right? And when you say traded for Chris Paul, that normally shouldn't be an insult, but he didn't get traded for 2009 Chris Paul or 2014 Chris Paul. He got traded for 2023 38-year-old Chris Paul. That's where it's like, dang. Like, I got traded for the dude who's about to be out the league in a little bit. So I think Jordan Poole's going to have a chip on his shoulder. The story of him coming back from the embarrassment of last year to be a number 1 option for Washington. And I can see him averaging like 28 points a game, being more efficient. So we agree on Jordan Poole, but the fans out there, if you disagree with us, let us know, all right? So now let's get into the next one. That would be Coach of the Year. What are the odds out there for Coach of the Year?
Yeah, so you have Mark Dagnall with the Thunder. He's the favorite to win with them kind of all healthy now with Chet in the equation. So he's the favorite there. And then you have Adrian Griffin with the Bucks in his first year. And then you have Joe Mazzulla with the Celtics, Jason Kidd with the Mavs, Rick Carlisle with the Pacers, and then Nick Nurse as his first year in Philadelphia. So.
Okay. And for our Suns fans out there, Frank Vogel on FanDuel is at plus 1,600 for the award. So who do you have winning Coach of the Year?
Yeah, I like Mark Dagnall here. I like him as a favorite, just because the Thunder. I think they're great. They have a chance to be a top 5 team in the West this year, and I think if they do get that, then there's no reason he shouldn't be, because of all the young talent they have, and he just has to really develop them more. And I think they've already shown a good development. I mean, Shea is the star there, but can he get those other guys in the fold now with Chet and Josh Giddey and Jalen Williams? I mean, just to name a few. So I think that he's going to lead them to be a top 5 team in the West, and that'll help him win Coach of the Year.
That's a very good pick right there. I like the reasoning because Mike Brown won last year basically on that same reasoning, where he came into Sacramento, the team that hadn't been in the playoffs since we was wearing 3X tall tees and Jabot jeans in the 2000s. So when you look at the fact that he was able to turn Sacramento around and give him the playoffs, Mark Daigneault can do the same thing with the Thunder and win the award. So I like that reasoning. But I do have to disagree with you on this one. There's another team out there that did make the playoffs last year that I think could take a big jump in wins, and it's all about them staying healthy. It's the New Orleans Pelicans and Coach Willie Green. If Zion is healthy, if Brandon Ingram is healthy, CJ McCollum is healthy, a lot of ifs, I know. But with this team, last year before Zion went down, they were a top 2 team in the Western Conference. So if they stay healthy, they can be one of the top teams in the Western Conference, and if they go from missing the playoffs to being a top 3 seed, he could be Coach of the Year. So, again, we have one we disagree on. Fans out there, let us know who you agree with, or if you have somebody else out there for the award. So now it's time for the big award, the big daddy of them all, the most
defensive player.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Defensive Player of the Year. So Defensive Player of the Year last year went to Jaren Jackson Jr. for the Memphis Grizzlies. Who are the favorites this year?
Yeah, so Jaren Jackson Jr. once again is favored to win the award. And then you have Evan Mobley as the second favorite, and then AD Anthony Davis as a third, and then Giannis as a fourth, and then Bam Adebayo with the Heat, and then the rookie Victor Wembanyama as a sixth favorite. So
wow, that's definitely saying a lot about Victor and what he's expected to do with him being a favorite for Defensive Player of the Year so early. Rookies aren't normally good at defense, so that says a lot. For the Suns fans out there, the only one I saw on the betting page was Kevin Durant at plus 12,000. So if you want to take just a giant leap and try to get some money there, you can bet on Kevin Durant. But we also like Josh Okogie to be maybe someone who gets in there later in the year. Maybe if you look back at the ballot or you look back at the award betting, maybe in December, you'll see Josh Okogie on there.
No, for sure. I mean, Josh, especially if he gets that 5th starter spot for the Suns, his role is going to be defense. So he could average like 1.5 to 2 steals a game, and he'll be guarding the best player every night. I mean, you saw that's what got Mikal Bridges into good contention when he was here, just him guarding that best player and locking them down. I mean, he doesn't have quite a similar frame as Mikal, but he's known for defense, and if he has a larger role here and he plays a lot of minutes, I don't see why he should not be in contention for that award.
For sure. So Suns fans, make sure you check back on the betting throughout the season to see if Josh Okogie ends up on that list. So now, who do you have winning Defensive Player of the Year this year?
I like Giannis for this award. I just think with them getting rid of Drew Holiday and Grayson Allen, I think he is going to have a bigger role defensively, and I think he could get this award again because he's going to have that big role, and he can focus a lot more on defense now with those 2 guys gone. And I just think the Bucks, they need to be a good defensive team this year, especially losing those 2 guys. And who's the better guy to lead that than their team leader of Giannis Antetokounmpo? So I think he's going to be their anchor there, along with Brook Lopez on the inside and outside. I mean, he can guard all 5 positions. So. Yeah. I just think Giannis is going to have the upper hand there.
Okay, I'm definitely not mad at that pick, right? Because if the Bucks end up being the 1 seed, they're going to have a lot of players up for awards, and someone's going to look at that defense who's normally ranked in top 5 and say somebody from this team should win Defensive Player of the Year. So that's a very good pick. Now, for my pick, I'm going with a surprise pick of Miles Turner. Miles Turner led the league in blocks last year. He's somebody who, if the Pacers make that jump into the playoffs, could definitely garner some attention for the award, especially if they're a good defensive team. So I like Miles Turner there because of his impact of blocking shots, not just blocking shots, but the turn shots at the rim. So if you look up and you look at the advanced stats and teams are only shooting like 40% at the rim against them, you're going to see like Miles Turner is really having a big impact, and he could win Defensive Player of the Year. So again, we disagree. Miles Turner for me. Giannis Antetokounmpo for him. Who do you have for Defensive Player of the Year? So I jumped the gun a little bit earlier. Now we're going to get into Most Valuable Player. Who are the favorites for this award?
Yeah, so you have Jokic to win it. After he didn't win it last year, he lost. He was in second place to Joel Embiid, who's not even in the. He's the fifth favorite for this award. So you have Jokic, then Luka Doncic, and then Giannis, and then Jason Tatum, Joel Embiid, and then Steph Curry.
Okay. And for your Suns fans out there, Kevin Durant is plus 1,600 for the award, and Devin Booker's at plus 2,200 for MVP. So who do you have winning the MVP this year?
Yeah, I'd just like to comment on those Suns. I think Booker has a better chance of winning MVP this year than Kevin Durant. I mean, just based on what we saw last year, him being willing to take on that role. And when the pressure's not on Devin Booker, when he has – now you add Bradley Beal to the equation, but when he had just Kevin Durant, I mean, he was even more of a killer, and I think his stats are just going to get better, especially those other stats like assists and rebounds and maybe like defensively steals. I think all those are going to jump up with these new players, and his points per game might increase a little bit, but I just think those other stats will improve more. And I think, I mean, I know KD and him both could finish in the top 10, but I just think Booker has the upper hand there. But for me, I'm going to go with Jokic on this one again. I just think it's revenge time for him after not getting it last year, and I think now everyone saw what he can do in the playoffs, so they know the kind of player that he is. And before, I think that was kind of the question with him. It's like, okay, now it's voters fatigue, but you win back-to-back MVPs, but you're not really doing anything in the postseason. So I think that kind of factored in to why he didn't get it last year, even though it wasn't during last season. It was just because, like, Jokic hasn't shown that he's the top player in the league, but now he has. So I think this award is his to lose this year.
I agree that it's his to lose, but I think he will lose it to Giannis Antetokounmpo this year. I think Milwaukee will get the first seed in the Eastern Conference and have the best record in the league. And because of his impact on both ends, he'll get MVP over Joker, because Joker, amazing offense. Like the best offensive player in the league when you think about what he does, scoring, assisting, and rebounding, offensive rebounding as well. But with Giannis, you mentioned earlier that he's your pick for Defensive Player of the Year. So if he's playing defense at that level, along with scoring 30 points a game, 13 rebounds, 5-6 assists a game, while being extremely efficient, shooting 55% from the field at least, that sounds like an MVP to me. So, again, we've been disagreeing a lot today. MVP, who do you have out there? I have Giannis Antetokounmpo. You have Nikola Jokic. If you have somebody else, please let us know. So now let's get into who we think will be some surprise teams this year. So when we say surprise teams, we're talking about teams who didn't make the playoffs last year, who are going to make the playoffs this year. And let's start in the Western Conference.
Yeah, so I think the obvious choice here for most fans is the Mavericks, just because of their collapse at the end of the year last year, and now they have Kyrie for a full year. I don't know, in my opinion, I don't know how good that's going to make them. I think they could be a bubble team again, but it's going to be interesting to see. Like, I don't know, they're a weird team, but some other options include like the Thunder, the Jazz, and the Pelicans. I think all those three teams have good shots this year, if not better shots than the Mavericks. So, like I mentioned about the Thunder earlier, I think they have the best chance here out of these four teams, just because they add Chet to the mix. They have second-year Jalen Williams. They have SGA still. They had Josh Giddey. So I just think them having the continuity of that team that typically bodes well for, like you mentioned, the Kings last year or the Grizzlies over time. Like, I just think their time is now. So I think out of all those teams, the Thunder are the best.
Yeah, I agree with you on the Thunder being the best team out of the teams who missed the playoffs last year. So I definitely have them getting into the playoffs. I also agree with you on Dallas being a weird team. I don't like Dallas to make the playoffs. They're going to be amazing on offense. Some nights you're going to have Luka dropping 40 and Kyrie dropping 40, but then you have Kyrie and Luka giving up 40. So I just don't believe in them as far as being able, a defensive team, or being good enough on defense, to be able to make the playoffs in the Western Conference, which is just crazy deep this year. So I like the Thunder to make the playoffs, and I also like the New Orleans Pelicans. I picked Willie Green for Coach of the Year, so of course I got picked to make the playoffs as well. And I think those two teams have so much talent, and when they're healthy, they will be able to really surprise some teams this year and get wins over the best of the best during certain parts of the regular season, especially when you have back-to-backs and you're the fresh team playing against them. It's going to be rough. So for my teams in the Western Conference, I have OKC and New Orleans making the playoffs. So before we get into our disappointing teams, let's go to the Eastern Conference. Who do you have making the playoffs in the East who missed last year?
Yeah, I think the most intriguing team is the now Monty Williams-led Detroit Pistons, just with them getting Cade Cunningham back as well. So I think they could be I don't know what you expect from them in year one, but over time they could develop into that team. So I think they get into the playoffs maybe as like a 6 to maybe they're ranked 6 to 10. So they're going to be an interesting team. And then the Magic and the Pacers are two other teams that come to mind. They're like I said, like I like their core, and they've been playing with each other for a few years now. So I think that could help propel them into the playoffs this year.
Okay, I definitely like the Orlando Magic as well because you got Paolo Banchero. You also have Franz Wagner, Markelle Fultz. They added Joe Ingles to that team. So I think that this team really has a core that is built to win, and they were one of the most exciting teams to watch last year on League Pass, and I think they're going to build on that into this year. So Orlando is my one team I have in the East making the playoffs who didn't make it last year. Detroit's very interesting, but I think they're a year or two away from building that roster into a playoff team. So now let's talk about the disappointing teams. We talked about teams who are going to make the playoffs. That means a few teams got to miss the playoffs. So who do you have missing the playoffs who made it last year in the Western Conference?
In the Western Conference, it's kind of tough. Like the Western Conference, like there's no teams that got like significantly worse. I think me and you agree on this one. The Grizzlies, like just because of the Ja Morant situation, I think they could be a weird team this year. Like the Mavericks, just because you don't know what's going to happen with them. So I'd say they're the one team in the West for me.
Yeah, I agree on the Grizzlies pick because, like you mentioned, Ja Morant missing 25 games. And also last year, it seems like they showed a lot of immaturity last year where they just couldn't handle success. I think that may carry over into this year. Like last year, they were able to ride the fast start into the second seed and then lost in the first round to the Lakers. I think this year that's going to carry over into the regular season where they won't perform as well. So I have the Grizzlies missing the playoffs. And also have the Minnesota Timberwolves missing the playoffs. Last year, they were able to sneak in as the 8th seed, and they got lucky against the OKC Thunder in that play-in game. And I just don't trust Cat. I'm not a fan of Karl-Anthony Towns. He's somebody who puts up beautiful stats, right? You look at his shooting percentage and you look at what he does from three. It's all nice. But then when it comes to when it counts in the playoffs, in games that really matter, he's fouling too much. He's not trusted on defense. He's getting destroyed. So I really feel like the Minnesota Timberwolves are going to miss the playoffs along with the Grizzlies in the Western Conference. What about the Eastern Conference?
Yeah, for me, I think the Nets are an obvious one just because since the KD trade last year, they got significantly worse. They just, in terms of their record, they just rode the record they already had into the playoffs. So I think they're a year or two away from – they need another piece on their team before they make the playoffs. I like Mikal there, but I just don't see him leading this team into the playoffs this year. And then another team for me that could miss the playoffs is the 76ers just because of this James Harden situation. You don't know how it's going to play out for them. I don't know how they're going to deal with all this drama. They just need to get rid of him at this point because of that. It just seems like they're an injury or two away just from being a bad team. So.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you there. The 76ers remind me of summers at my grandma's house. When I was younger, I had to go to my grandma's house for summers, and she always watched The Price is Right, Young and the Restless, Bold and the Beautiful, and all those stories and soap operas. And the 76ers remind me of The Young and the Restless, The Bold and Beautiful, all those soap operas that came on because of all the drama they have going on. So I think that all that drama could cause them to come down, but to have them miss the whole entire playoffs, that's a big drop. But I wouldn't be shocked, man. That could be the bold prediction of the year right there from you. But for me, I'm going to go with the Brooklyn Nets as well to miss the playoffs. Like you said, they rolled the record they got with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving into the playoffs. They were not nearly as good once they left. I do like Mikal Bridges to be an all-star, but I don't think he's good enough to carry a team into the playoffs quite yet. So now it's time for the final segment of the show. We are officially a week away from the season, so we got to put the predictions on wax. NBA Finals. Who do you have going from each conference, and who is winning the championship?
Yeah, so, well, like we said on the podcast earlier, I think the Suns are going to make it out of the West. I know you don't agree with me there. I have them beating the Nuggets in the Western Conference Finals this year. And then we'll see in the East, because it didn't really transpire last year, of the top teams, which we thought would be Milwaukee and Boston, which now are the top two teams again, and Drew Holiday's in Boston. So I think those two teams, I'd have to pick them at this early stage just because of the talent they have. And then I have the Bucks beating the Celtics, and then the Suns versus the Bucks in the finals.
All right, who you got winning the finals, Suns or Bucks?
I think the Suns, just because when it comes down to those two teams, it's kind of they're two completely new teams now. I just don't think Milwaukee has a defense necessary to continue the past runs, or like how they beat the Suns in the original finals in 2021. They don't have the Devin Booker stopper of Drew Holiday anymore. So I just think them getting rid of Drew Holiday and Grayson Allen, I mean, now them and the Suns are going to have arguably the two best offenses in the league, but they don't have that kind of defensive prowess, so I don't see them beating the Suns in the finals.
Okay. Well, you already said it. I have the Nuggets beating the Suns in the Western Conference Finals. I have Denver coming out of the Western Conference. For the Eastern Conference, I'm going with Milwaukee to beat Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals. I believe the offense of Damian Lillard, along with Giannis and Chris Middleton, those guys, will be just too much for Boston. And I just don't trust Jaylen Brown yet. The man is making $300 million and don't have a left hand. I can't trust him in the playoffs. So I got to go with Milwaukee to win in the Eastern Conference. Going against Denver in the finals, I got the Milwaukee Bucks beating the Denver Nuggets in 7 games in the NBA Finals.
I don't know. I guess we'll have to see. I mean, the season's a week away. I know me and you can't wait until it starts. We've been around the Suns. We see the excitement building up as the season's right around the corner. So I'm just looking forward to some NBA basketball.
For sure. And make sure you follow Burn City Suns Talk on Twitter. Make sure you check out our episodes on Burn City Sports YouTube channel each and every week. And we're not just Suns. Burn City Sports, it gives you everything Phoenix. So if you're looking for Cardinals, Suns, Coyotes, Diamondbacks, Phoenix Rising, everything Arizona State, make sure you follow Burn City Sports on all social media platforms. And until next time, peace.